There's a moment in every business buyer, operator, or just an ambitious person's life where they stop and think. Someone must know the answer. Someone must know the sequence. Someone must know the path. Again, especially if you're an investor or a business buyer or a capital allocator responsible for turning tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of scarce capital into something that compounds. And you imagine that the legends, the people who have allocated hundreds of millions and maybe even billions, the people who have built enduring companies must have had access to some secret map. You imagine Mark Leonard, the founder of Constellation Software, had a bath. You imagine Michael Ovitz had a bath. You imagine Buffett and Munger had a bath. You imagine Sam Zell, Tom Murphy, Bob Iger, Gary Schwartz, the architects of modern business empires, followed some master plan. But Jeffrey Walker has news for you. And Walker isn't a consultant or an author. He's the co-founder and managing partner of Chase Capital Partners, a private equity platform inside JP Morgan that controlled over 12 billion and backed more than 6,000 entrepreneurs across multiple continents, industries, and cycles. And after 4 decades of watching winners and losers at scale, he concluded, if you think you are on the right path, you are on the wrong path, because there is no path. You are creating your unique path every day. The great tragedy of life is simple. Most people are trying to follow a road that does not exist. And the great opportunity is equally simple. The road is yours to build if you're willing to step into uncertainty. Today I want to talk about what it all actually means. Nothing philosophical, no cliche, but in the lived reality of investors, capital allocators, operators, holdco builders, and founders. Because every single person you admire in business becomes great the exact same way. Not by following a path, but by having a courage to walk without one. So let's dive in and why we crave paths and why they fail us. And Jeffrey Walker didn't learn any of this from the books. He learned it by sitting across from thousands of entrepreneurs, by studying thousands of deals, backing thousands of operators, and observing thousands of career rise and thousands crash. He watched extremely talented people fail, and at the same time, he watched quiet, under-credentialed founders beat Ivy League prodigies. He watched people with perfect resumes lose to people with no resume at all. And through all of this, he discovered something almost nobody talks about. Talent is common, intentionality is rare, and intentionality, not intelligence, is what creates a path worth walking. But to understand Walker's philosophy, you have to understand the physiology behind it. And we want certainty because certainty feels safe. Every ambitious person secretly wishes the world worked like this. First you do A, then you do B, then you do C, and after that you win. We want the career ladder, we want the roadmap, we want the exact 10 steps the greats used. Because if a path exists, then success is just effort plus time. But Walker saw something far darker. The people who cling to path the hardest were the ones who failed the hardest. Why? Because they outsourced the most important question of their lives. What game am I meant to play? When you forget to ask that, everything else, we can say, collapses. And here are some of the stories, let's call them the dangers of the wrong path. So, the banker assembly line. Again, stories that reveal what actually happens when you follow a path and what happens when you don't. Walker tells a story from his early days at JP Morgan. Every junior banker believed there was a formula. First you're an analyst, then you become an associate, then vice president, then managing director, then you have private equity job, and then you retire rich. They treated this path like gravity, like destiny, like the unbreakable physics of a successful life. And Walker watched them march down that path like cattle to slaughter. High IQ, low self-awareness. Not one of them paused to ask a simple question. Do I enjoy this? Am I actually good at this? Do I want this lifestyle? Is this even my game? They followed the path because it existed, not because it fit them. And Walker said the outcome was predictable, and at the same time it was very sad because by age 35 many were burned out, depressed, divorced, disillusioned, resentful, financially successful but emotionally very down, and he would even say like emotionally bankrupt. And he wrote, they thought they did everything right, and yet their life felt wrong. That's the, if we can sum it up, like the danger of a path. It gives the illusion of progress, but not all progress is forward. Second story, the perfect resume that led nowhere. Walker once mentored a young man, Princeton econ, flawless grades, textbook internships, Bain, Stanford MBA. Everyone told him he was on the perfect path. And he followed it like a soldier. From the Bain, he went to Stanford, from there to a hedge fund, from there to corporate strategy, and from there to a VP of nothingness, as Walker said. Then at the age of 40, he asked Walker, why does my life feel like it belongs to someone else? And Walker answered, because it does. This young man spent 15 years walking a path engineered for a mythical successful person. A composite of expectations, not a human life. And Walker's note about him was brutal. 15 years spent walking a road that led him exactly where he didn't want to go. So path following is not buying optionality, it is burying yourself in other people's expectations. Story number 3, a lady called Alicia. Let's call her the pathless entrepreneur. And this is, by the way, one of Walker's favorite founders. The lady had no MBA, didn't really have a network. She was actually quite the opposite. She was a single mom, deeply talented in product design. And many people said to her that in order to be a founder, you should maybe raise a venture capital, you should hire a team, you should blitz scale, and then you should try to exit, and you should try to do it fast. And that's the advice she received, but she didn't want that. What she did and what she wanted was the independence. She wanted control. She wanted time with her kids, and she wanted a company she could craft like an art. And she ignored the typical VC path when you raise capital, and she decided to do her own style where she made the products by hand. She sold them at the small trade shows in the beginning, and she was packing every box herself. She went very slow, no growth in the beginning. She was just focusing on the customers, not investors and this outside hype. And within the first 5 years, she grew from 0 to 25 million. And from there, many, many years later, she sold for 200 million for a large retailer. And she didn't really copy a model. She simply followed intention. Before we continue, there is something about Jeffrey Walker's idea, like there is no path, you create it every day, that reminds me of the entrepreneurs inside today's sponsor, Capital Path, because that's exactly what business buyers do. They aren't following someone else's roadmap. They're out there finding small companies, building relationships with the owners, structuring deals, raising capital, taking over operations, creating their own path, just like we've been talking about all episodes. And Capital Path is where accredited investors can partner with them. And inside Capital Path, you'll find vetted searchers, real acquisition opportunities, and deals you won't see on the public market. It's where intentional operators go to raise capital and buy the companies that actually keep the economy running. So if you believe in backing path creators, check out capitalpath.com. I'll put a link in the description as well. And start investing alongside the next generation of disciplined business builders. Now, here's the interesting shift Walker show over and over again. When you stop searching for the path and start building your own, your entire physiology changes. Because you stop comparing yourself to others, you start experimenting. You stop imitating and you start creating. and you stop fearing downturns and you begin using downturns. And most importantly, you stop asking, am I on the right path? And you start asking, what is the next right step? And this shift, I believe, to be massive. It's also very liberating once you're on your own path, once you're creating your own path, because there are many surprises, but you expect those things to happen, and there is no clear strategy. At the same time, you know exactly what are the next steps. I believe that people who build their own path eventually build something else. They're able to build like a compounding edge over anyone else, because their path is very, very unique. Once you understand that building your own path requires intention, the next question becomes, what fuels that intention for years and decades? Because Walker believed the answer was two things. Number one, the right kind of effort. And number two, the genuine enjoyment. Because he believes talent is overrated and intention and enjoyment are very rare. And Walker's biggest idea, the world is full of talented people who never become anything. Why? Because talent is very, very passive. Intentionality is very, very active. A lot of investors, operators, and allocators try to grind their way to greatness. And Walker said, people try to grind their way to greatness. It never works. You must enjoy your craft enough to repeat it for decades. This is the secret that separates career bankers from legendary allocators, business managers from world-class operators, deal junkies from long-term holdco builders, and founders from empire architects. People who enjoy the game, like genuinely, stay in the game longer. And that time advantage compounds into something very, very special. So no amount of talent can compete with someone who enjoys doing their reps. Let's get very practical. How to create your own path. This is, I believe, where Walker is most useful because he wasn't just philosophical, he was very, very practical. And here's the framework he taught for his founders and operators of the portfolio companies. So, number one, start where your curiosity already points. Curiosity is like a compass. If you follow it long enough, it becomes conviction. The great investors all started with curiosity. Giving you a few examples here. Buffett with reading, Ovitz with power dynamics, Leonard with tiny software niches, Sam Zell with distressed assets. Once you find your thing, you should follow it. You should find what are you curious about and then just follow it and the answers will show up. Build a life around your natural gifts. The greats don't fix weaknesses, they weaponize strengths. Walker said, strengths compound, weaknesses distract. Your game must fit you, not the market, not the peers, not the resume, but you. Expect uncertainty. Do not fear it. If your path feels clear, you're copying someone else's pretty often. And uncertainty is the tax you pay for originality. Another thing, make decisions from principles, not presentment. Presentment creates average outcomes. Principles create unique ones. And most people ask, how is this usually done? And the special one, let's call them special one, the greats, they ask, what is the right thing to do here? Number 5, just enjoy the work. As strategy, not luxury. You cannot grind your way to decades-long mastery. Joy is the only sustainable fuel. Buffett tap danced to work. Ovitz loved the game. Zell loved chaos. And Leonard loves systems. Joy creates endurance, and endurance compounds over time. The path reveals itself only in the rear view mirror. The message today, it's not anything motivational. It's just to having this basic foundation, like there is no path, there are only steps. And the courage to take the next one without needing the entire map. Every founder you admire, every investor you study, every holdco builder, folks who have bought businesses I've interviewed, they all learned this the same way. They walked, they adjusted, they experimented, they trusted their curiosity, they trusted their effort, they trusted themselves. And then, somewhere along the way, their path revealed itself. but only in the rear view mirror. So my message to you, especially again, if you're an investor, an operator, business buyer, or just a builder, it's simple. Stop searching for the path. Start taking the steps, because the path is not found. It's created by you, and you do it every single day. Because in the end, the highest return investment you'll ever make isn't in a stock or a deal or a fund. It's in the direction you choose for your own life. So thanks a lot for listening this episode. And if this helped you think maybe differently about your own path today, make sure you follow and subscribe if you haven't already. And share it with one special person who you think should hear this message today. Again, thank you for listening, and talk to you very soon.